polls leading up to the November election. Just how big is his lead? Well, that depends on the poll. In a new YouGov economics poll, Biden is leading the president by 9 points. Some polls have Biden holding an even bigger lead. But are polls like this giving you the real story? Even Democratic strategist Doug Schoen says the Trump-Biden race is a lot closer than headlines are telling you. Joining us to help us understand how this all works is Trump campaign pollster Jim McLaughlin. Jim, welcome back.
Great to be here.
Hey, Jim, there's a poll that came out this morning from Morning Consult that kind of caught my eye that I thought was really interesting. It has to do with this whole issue of Confederate statues. And let me put it up on the screen for you and all the viewers to see, because this really kind of, I'll be honest, it shocked me. It shows that 48% of people actually continue to support for these Confederate monuments to keep their names, and only 33% of people actually want them renamed. The mainstream media keeps saying that the president's out on an island on this, but in fact, he may be with the plurality of Americans.
You know, it's just like we've seen time and time again, and this goes back to the 2016 election. The president, as you know, the president looks at polls as a necessary evil. He doesn't govern by polls. And what the president understands, especially on an issue like this, most Americans have a lot more common sense. They don't want to see, you think about it, folks like George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, they all owned slaves. As a matter of fact, 12 of our presidents actually owned slaves. And when you look at this, they don't want to get rid of all our history. Unfortunately, it's an ugly part of our past. But again, you don't want to, the American people do not want to see that these liberal leftist radical politicians just erasing our history. And the other great example is in a place like New York, where folks are talking about getting rid of Christopher Columbus statues. I mean, it's just gone too far.
Jim, I want to get your take on this poll. We showed it earlier in the week, but it was done by Democracy Institute, and it shows kind of a shocking number. Obviously, the minority vote is really important in this election, but it shows that Black voters, 40% of them say they would vote for Trump. Is that surprising to you, NER? Do you think that's accurate?
You know, I don't think he's quite going to get 40% of the vote, but that's the second poll that's shown this. Not too long ago, there was a Rasmussen poll out there that had the president's job approval at 40%. And what we were seeing here is the president is getting significantly higher job approval ratings among African Americans and also among Hispanics that past presidents have gotten. And a lot of that had to do, before we went into the pandemic, we had a really, really strong economy. We had record low unemployment for Hispanics, record low unemployment for African Americans, record low unemployment for women. And I think the president doesn't need to get 40% of the African American vote to win this time. I mean, Mitt Romney got, high single digits. That's one of the reasons why he lost. The president did slightly better than that. I could see the president getting 15, 20% of the African American vote this time. And if he does it, if he can get 15 to 20%, especially in those battleground states, it's going to be an easy election for him.
You know, Jim, speaking of polls that kind of shocked us, we continue down this road for a second. There's another poll that showed that 69% of the people that voted for Trump want him to protect Dreamers from deportation, something that the Supreme Court today upheld. And yet the president kind of lashed out against the court today. And if you believe this poll, 70% around people believe that the Dreamers should be protected. So, that again shocked me on this one. Do you think that he should jump on board this decision by the court?
Again, he's not going to do it about polling. What the president was what they were trying to get the Supreme Court to do is to help them to get Congress to do, the Nancy Pelosi-led Congress. If you remember, basically a few years ago, the president came to Congress, and look, we all have compassion for the Dreamers. We understand, what happened here. And, many times it was sins of their parents. And and this president is trying to do something to make sure that that this is handled in a proper and compassionate way.
Yeah. Jim, I think the thing that's so fascinating about polling and public interest right now is that with the pandemic and with the racial unrest that we've seen, there's just so many variables coming in that that could throw the election a curveball, and especially with the way the economy is evolving. So I look forward to touching base with you next week and to see where we are after this Trump rally.
Looking forward to it, Sean.
All
Great
right.
seeing you.
All right. Well, coming up, President Trump's message getting to Hispanic voters is an interesting one. We're going to hear what Chris Salcedo has to say. Plus, President Trump and the RNC go after former National Security Advisor John Bolton. Some think his new explosive book is breaking the law. Our company joins us to weigh in.